Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast live on YouTube. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder. That's my producer, Chris Kruger.
You are Drew Gear.
I'm Drew Gear. I'm whoever the hell I want to be tonight. We're sitting here drinking some cold Montuckies, just thinking about, we just got done recording the first episode of
Thinking about, talking about, writing about, thinking about what I'm talking about. You don't know what that is? You don't know what that's from?
Why would I know where that's from?
Parks and Rec, dude. Watch television.
You're going to criticize me for what I'm watching. Guys, we're here, and we just got done recording the very first installment of our draft preview series. This year, it's just called the 2026 NFL Draft for Dummies, which I think fits. And it's a term of endearment. Don't take it personally. I love you guys. I love that you come here every single week and stick it out with us. You show up. Big JH. First, Teddy Bandana. Hell yeah. Best note of the week is Rockpile Report night. Thank you, gentlemen.
I got a message from Jason, and he was like, you should turn the chat on. There's apparently a setting. You could turn the chat to subscriber only. So in order to participate, you have to subscribe.
Listen, at this point, I'll take all the feedback I can get. My ego is so large that I can't say no, right? Like I can't say no to the attention. What I will say to you all right now is this. This week has been interesting for me because I feel like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of surprising feedback. I've gotten a lot of surprising messages of people who feel a certain kind of way about things that I didn't expect them to care about. I got some surprising feedback, but the most surprising text I got this week had nothing to do with the NFL. Chris, why the hell is your uncle auditioning for the Golden Bachelor?
I literally texted you while I was on the phone with my mother. My mother was like, you'll never guess. Chooch, we call my Uncle John, he's Uncle Chooch, because he's a chooch. If you don't know what a chooch is, neither do I, but it's my uncle. He's an absolute chooch. He got an email because he's a male model, a part-time real estate agent and male model. He got an email to audition for the Golden Bachelor. I guess the producers of the Golden Bachelor were thumbing through people on the Ford modeling website looking for potential contestants. And I guess he called my aunt and was like, well, think of what it'll do for our business. Because they do like real estate and then also like my uncle is actually real handy, which is weird because
handsy or handy?
Handy. He's real handy. Which is weird because like when you mention, if you were just to like say Home Depot, I associate Home Depot with my Uncle Chooch because he and my aunt were in Atlanta visiting my mom, and my mom wanted a small chandelier put in her closet. And Chooch,
if that's not the most first world thing I've ever heard. My mom needed a chandelier in her closet. He says it casually. One. Do you understand what I'm working with over here?
Yeah. So Chooch was like, well, I can wire it. And so like we went to Home Depot, and my uncle was wearing a lime green cashmere sweater with matching cashmere socks. And he's just getting everything that he needs at Home Depot. I'm like, you don't look like you belong here.
See, Chris, a man can dress well and still be useful.
Yeah.
Man can dress well and still be useful.
I mean, there was a time when I lived in Atlanta, I was at Publix or my brother was at Publix. And they either me or my brother, we walked by the SunTrust Bank within the Publix. There's my uncle on a sandwich board, like, come sign up at SunTrust. I'm like, Uncle Chooch is at Publix on a sandwich board.
It has to be the most surreal thing. You're walking through the grocery store, you go, wait, what just happened? And you walk back and go, I know that guy. And everyone around you is like, so? He's advertising a bank and he's old.
Yeah.
It's amazing, guys.
In related news, after you watch our pre-record that I put out this weekend with that we did with Bruce, next week when we do a live show, I will have gotten a haircut. I'm getting a haircut and the person that's cutting my hair is Josh Allen's barber. So that's fun.
What I love is when Bruce Nolan joins us for podcasts and we get to talk a little inside baseball. We get to talk a little smack. We talk about a lot of things. That guy is an interesting character. I love him to death. Now, what I will say, Drew, in the comments, Big JH99, Hicksonbaugh. Drew, are you worried Chris's uncle will be more successful at finding love than the Bills are at finding a consistent secondary? You're going to have to listen to the draft preview show to find out. Way to tee it up there for me, Big J. Guys, what I love about this time of year is we get to freelance and talk about whatever the hell we want. And so this week, I'm going to hit you with the Bills news update.
Oh.
Yeah, Producer Felt.
Yeah, where is it?
Up. As I pour myself a bottle, we have to talk about the idea that the Vikings have just offer sheeted our swing tackle, Ryan VanDemark. It's one of the things that I think a lot of Bills fans I don't want to say don't understand. I'm not going to try to insult your intelligence. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you that you probably don't know everything you need to about the offer sheet or why this happened. And I think we need to figure out whether or not, because I have an opinion as to whether or not Brandon Beane is actually responsible for this. Like, he didn't cause this. The short answer is he might have. First of all, you have to take into account the fact that offer sheets, by and large, for what they are not frequently utilized in the NFL. They're just not. 2023 and 2024, there were 0 offer sheets signed by an RFA or any other tendered player. In 2025, there was only one. And in 2026, you have the Ryan VanDemark offer sheet. And it comes out of left field, and it couldn't come at the worst time, but that's kind of what the offer sheet is supposed to be, right? The philosophy around them is really interesting. If you look at the NHL, I want to use the NHL as an example for a minute. For years, the NHL has been loath to give out offer sheets to restricted free agent players. Do you want to know the reason for that? Guys in the comments, do you know why nobody offer sheets in the NHL?
I do. It's because Brian Burke was going to fight every GM with the Dustin Penner offer sheet from years ago. Turned out the guy actually sucked and loved fast food.
The reason why is because historically, NHL front offices have been comprised of retread executives. It's just the same guys being swapped around from one franchise to the next. It's just a real old boys club, right? So
I should get a Burke tie for this. Just wrap it around, not tied.
You could take it and hang yourself from that joist. I love you. In that way, like, you never know who you're going to work with again in the future, or potentially have to call and try to get a job or make a trade happen with because you've shuffled teams again. Because that's what the NHL is. It's just passing around tired executives, or at least it was for 20, 30 years. So they've always been hesitant to do something that might piss another GM off or create bad blood where it didn't need to be. It's worth noting, right now, 2/3 of the NHL's GMs are in their first stint at the position. Chris, this summer, I expect there to be at least 2 offer sheets. 2. I'm going to put the over-under at 1.5, and you and me can make a Seagram's bet on it later in the year. But either way, I think that dynamic, when I think about how Ryan VanDemark and his situation materialized for Buffalo. Earlier this offseason, the Vikings unceremoniously just fired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa, their GM. And in doing so, they just kind of shoved their VP of football operations, what's his name? Rodaman, it doesn't matter because he's not going to be here for very long, Rob Brzezinski as interim GM. This is a guy he's not a GM.
Is that the guy that coached the Browns? Chudzinski,
Pikazinski, it doesn't matter. He's not going to be in the NFL for very long as a GM. He has no experience with it. Never has been. He's been a football executive. He's a guy who knows that he's probably not going to hold the title for long. And he's worked with the Vikings in the front office since 1999. So he's not worried about his next gig. He just took this because he's like, well, shit, we have a vacuum. It's free agency. Somebody has to step in here and start to freewheel. He's also a guy looking at a crappy roster that's already getting memeable quarterback play. And he's saying to himself, my line isn't great. You know, I've got a starter right tackle who was drafted in 2018, and I've got a decent left tackle, and I don't know what the hell else is going on here. And there's nobody I recognize behind him because I'm not a GM. I'm not supposed to know these things. So this sucks, and I don't have the money that some of the bad teams in football have to swing for the fences. That is the exact type of guy who would file an offer sheet to an RFA player like VanDemark. It's not that he's victimizing the Bills. It's not that he's picking on us. He just looks around and goes, I need to make my offensive line better on a budget. How am I going to do it? And also, I'm not worried about the interpersonal fallout. Not even for a second is he thinking about, well, am I going to rub Brandon Beane the wrong way if I do this to a guy that he's probably trying to hang on to and he's just using them as a mechanism? Not at all. And he has starting experience to boot. This is a come up for a guy like Brzezinski. The reality is it's kind of Brandon Beane's fault. Okay. And that may sound harsh, like I'm blaming him, but let's look at the way the team has treated Ryan VanDemark while he's been here under this RFA status for the last few years. He has more starting experience than Buffalo's other offensive swing tackle, Jaylen Waddle. And yet at every single turn, the team has found opportunities to put Grable ahead of VanDemark in the pecking order. It's always like Chris, when it comes to game day actives versus inactives, Grable, if he's healthy, in quotes, he somehow gets preference. Even though VanDemark has started some big games for the Buffalo Bills and he's afforded himself well, we still, as a franchise, keep putting Grable ahead of him in the pecking order. I'm sure things go on at practice. I'm sure there's things that go on behind the scenes that dictate a lot of that. But at the same time, it's not a good look. And I'm sure it makes VanDemark feel a certain kind of way. He goes, you mean to tell me I played the Chiefs when Spencer Brown missed the game, and I didn't give up a single quarterback pressure and also had some really key downfield blocks as a right tackle, and then the very next time a game came available where someone could start a tackle, you put me at guard and you let Jaylen Waddle take tackle? It makes no sense. But this is how we've treated him. They also knew that he was a street free agent after the draft, but chose not to tie a tender to him that would have commanded some sort of draft capital back to them, right? Because the original round tender doesn't bring him anything. Those two dynamics would tell me, as another GM, if I'm looking at the Bills from the outside, that you really don't give a shit about this guy. You don't care about Ryan VanDemark, Brandon Beane. If you did, you wouldn't be treating him this way. You like him, but you're not married to him. You want to date, but you're not willing to pay for the ring. So if I'm a GM and I need to take a swing at maybe a swing tackle, but a guy who maybe outplays my current starter because he's not good, and it won't cost me anything long term, and it doesn't cost me a draft pick, why wouldn't I do that?
Gridiron in the comments, Anderson, Lunt, draft pick for left guard.
Well, and that's it, right? The Bills have done everything. The fact that you drafted Chase Lunt sends the message to other executives, they really just don't like this VanDemark guy. I don't know why, but we're going to get in there and we're going to have a conversation about it and see if we can't strike a deal. So they sign him to an offer sheet. And now the ball is firmly in the Buffalo Bills court. And I got to say, for as harsh as I'm being about Beane's approach to this and the way the Bills have handled VanDemark, I can't blame Beane either. When selecting the tag to put on him as an RFA, Beane had a couple options to choose from. Chris, you want to put the chart of him up there for people?
You want the first round?
Well, no. This is the cost of what the tiered RFA tenders are. For the first round, it's going to cost you $8 million.
They're all on one. They're all on the slide.
Perfect. So let's talk about this.
First round.
If you were going to put a first round tender, hey, if somebody tries to steal Ryan VanDemark, he's going to get I get a first round pick back. It costs $8 million. Do you know who in the NFL is making $8 million a tackle right now? I'll walk you through it.
Garrett Bowles. It's J.C. Latham.
Yeah. Armand Membu, the recently drafted first-round pick Armand Membu for the New York Jets. These are the guys who are currently making first-round money. Do you see Ryan VanDemark performing at that level? I don't. Do you see protecting him at that level? I don't. You could never have justified a first-round tender for Ryan VanDemark. Even though he has afforded himself well, you're not going to put him in the shoes that the type of money other starters, legitimate starters, are making. Then there's the second-round tender. Hey, if you take my guy, I get a second-round pick. Well, Chris, that pays $5.76 million to pass that tender. And look at the players who are currently making that kind of money. Right tackle Jermaine Illuminor, who is a starter.
And who's the guy for the Jets?
Ola Fashanu.
That sounds right.
Olu Fashanu, first-round pick of the New York Jets. Right tackle Colton McKivitz of the San Francisco 49ers. Left tackle Broderick Jones in Pittsburgh. All four of these players were bona fide starters in the NFL in 2025. They are all making $5.75 million a year.
Barber VanDemark is also only 6 feet tall. Perfect fit to block for Kyler Murray.
But so can you guys in the comments, can you really justify paying more than that to keep around a Ryan VanDemark, who is a very good swing tackle? And then you look at the guys who filter into the category, the range salary-wise of those that would match with the right of first refusal tender, which doesn't give you any compensation back, but allows you to at least negotiate with the player at $3.5 million. You have your right tackle out there and backup right tackle for the Chargers, Trey Pipkins, who had to play because the Chargers cannot stay healthy on the OL forever. Like it's their identity.
You got Buffalo Chop House regular Cody Ford.
Guys, one time Chris and I were at the Buffalo Chop House with Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn. And what makes this story funny, and Aaron, I'm sorry, I'm not really outing you. Aaron was like, he pulled a Jerry Seinfeld. He's like, I don't know what to wear to this thing. And we were like, just wear jeans and a nice shirt. I don't know. He's like, I don't have dress shoes for this. I don't work in an office. And I was like, dude, show up just not looking like a bum and you'll be fine. So Aaron agonized about this scenario all day long. And then he showed up and he was dressed well, although he had white New Balances on like a dad would. And then as we're standing outside, Cody Ford walks past us wearing sweatpants and a red t-shirt. And Aaron's face when he saw Cody Ford walk by in sweatpants and then he looked at Chris, Greg, and I, it was like he wanted to explode. He's like, you mean to tell me that I agonized about this for how long? And this guy, he's not even good at football. He gets to just waltz into the Chop House because he's got money wearing sweatpants? Aaron was livid. It was one of the best days of my life.
Do we also toast to Aaron over, he was at Disney.
We do.
He had a family incident and everything.
Cheers to him and his family. I'm happy to hear they're doing all right.
Cheers to Aaron.
So Cody Ford is out there making Ryan VanDemark money. Right tackle Josh Connerly Jr., who's a young player being groomed as a swing tackle, maybe starter in Washington. That's a guy making that money. Left tackle Josh Simmons, late first-round draft pick of the Kansas City Chiefs. He had to start, and then he had a mental breakdown and took a break from football. It's almost like he fell in the draft for a reason, and then it came back to bite the Chiefs. Either way, those are the guys. It's rookie contracts, not taken in the top 25 of the draft, and career journeymen. Those are the guys making the money that Ryan VanDemark was pegged to make under the RFA tender that we gave him. And I feel like we can be cranky about it as fans that this is happening, but there's really only one bucket that he ever belonged in, and we all know it. And it's where being put him, even knowing the risk that somebody might take him. I think that for as hard as people get on Brandon Beane about things, you have to be willing to admit that he played this one right. It's just not going well right now. Chris, do we have a number? Can you give it a goog? Do you know the number that the Vikings offered him? I don't know if that's been publicized, because the idea is you have the right to offer the same money. Now, you can sign him to a similar deal, and you can then extend him after the fact to lower cap hits or do whatever the hell you want to do.
4.3.
So it's going to cost you an extra $600,000 to keep your swing tackle, who you've relied on pretty consistently. I don't know that you would want to flirt with losing him, would you? Chris, what do you think? Would you, guys in the chat, would you like to lose Ryan VanDemark over what amounts to less than a starter's, less than a veteran minimum salary?
I mean, going into the draft, I assumed we lost Edwards to New Orleans. I assumed like a third, fourth, fifth round pick might be used on a guard in some fashion. If we lose him, I'm fine with it. I think we'll draft somebody in the interim.
Jay Clark in the comments, the jump from Aaron's family emergency to Cody Ford. Guys, it's what we do here. We're here to entertain. Guys, there's a million places you can go to get smarter. You can't laugh everywhere. That's what the Rockpile Report is.
Yeah, you can go to Fox's Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader with Jeff Foxworthy, if that's still on TV.
Our podcast exists because I have a fun time talking about these things. I think you guys do too. We're all here to have a good time, have a couple drinks. I was going to do this anyway. I just decided to share it with you guys. And now we're all here having a ball. The one thing I will say that gives me pause when I think about the value of Ryan VanDemark at $4.7 million, when you say, well, Bean obviously has to go do this. Chris, let's take a look at what's still out there on the market. Jonah Williams, still out there, former starter. You look at guys like Andres Pete, who's 32 years old, but he was a long-time starter at right tackle, which is probably where VanDemark would slot in if he was needed. And he's out there for he played on $1.4 million last year. You could let VanDemark walk for 4.7 and go get yourself an Andres Pete, a guy who's played tackle at a high level throughout the course of his career and isn't that old. And you could probably get him to join your team for less than half. I don't think that's a loss for the Buffalo Bills. Is it disappointing that there's a guy who might be ascending in his career and you missed the chance to capitalize on it? Sure. But it all comes down to opportunity cost and what is it worth to you as a franchise? A team that only has one starting tackle might be loath to lose a Ryan VanDemark. But a guy who has a guy in Brandon Beane who has two bookend tackles signed to long-term contracts. He's playing with house money in these conversations. And I think as shrewd as it sounds, the smart money is on letting VanDemark walk. I had the same reaction a lot of fans had, where I said, oh my God, we can't let this happen too. There's been so much turnover. We got to have some kind of consistency here for the Buffalo Bills. And I wanted knee-jerk reaction style to say, oh my God, if Beane doesn't find a way to sort this. But then you have a couple drinks and you take a deep breath and you look around and you go, well, there's a Kelvin Beachum out there. He's old as shit, but guess what? He started in the league at tackle positions. He can get me a game or two. There's Kelvin Andersons, the Hakeem Adenijis of the world. There's guys out there who can give me a game, 2 games, if necessary.
Ralph Wilson in the comments, match the offer sheet, draft a guard to compete with Anderson, trade VanDemark to Minnesota for the draft pick. Grable then is the swing tackle.
See, and this is where you could say, but again, what is the money worth? You know, we talked about Teron Johnson, the Teron Johnson trade and the fact that they ate salary. What, to get a pick back? Ooh, make him a post June 1 cut and the Teron Johnson release gets you $8 million in cap space. You opted not to do that. What, because you want a draft pick now? You're out of your mind. That pick cost you $7 million. I don't love that idea. I like the idea of not paying today's salary cap for an extra late round draft pick. Call me crazy. I just like that idea. I believe that you let the Vikings have this guy. Good. You want him on 1 year. And if he's really good, you know what I'll do? Fuck it. I'll clear the cap space next year and I'll come back and get him. If I'm Brandon Beane, I'll come back and get him if he's really that good. Meanwhile, you can go out to...
He'll be so bad in Minnesota that you can sign him again next year at a lower cost.
Yeah.
Because his play wasn't good.
And this is my point. Like, it's a gamble for the Vikings. For as much as people are worried about the Bills side of the equation, he could implode like Peerless Price, leaving the Bills, going to another team where there's not the strong offensive line that we've had, not the great offensive line coaching that we've had, not the guys who have been mentored the way this team has been mentored. He's going to go out there and he could die on an island and then be a free agent again next year, shopping, hoping for a $1.5 million deal. The same way I'm sitting here talking about Andrews Pete. We could hop on him then and say, hey, now you saw what it's like out there. Come on back. Come on. It's okay. Just come on back. It's okay. You don't have to apologize. You can just come back. Chris, you don't even say anything. You just hold the back door open. Like when your dogs are coming in from outside, you just hold the door open and let them kind of sulk back in. Guys, they took all of TJ dead cap hit this year instead of spreading it out over 2 years. Yeah, it's crazy, Roy, what they did with the Teron Johnson situation. I'm over the idea. Anybody who wants to pitch me the concept of paying cap dollars now to get a pick later, I think that's one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. Chris, any thoughts?
No, Teron Johnson. I didn't like that Teron Johnson trade. I mean, let VanDemark walk. I kind of trust Bean. There's like certain positions I trust Bean with to find like mid-level in the draft, and I think he's got to be around. He's got to be around 40 to 50% for offensive line. Like I trust. I mean, we'll get to it in the coming weeks, but like when it comes to the draft, I wholeheartedly trust Bean to find a linebacker mid-round. I think he'll be able to find a guard 3rd, 4th, 5th round if we need it.
And also, you look at what's available in that regard. There is still a lot of free agents available out there. There's still a lot going on. And this is where player evaluation becomes a talking point amongst our fans. So, Chris, it's obviously been talked about on other shows, other podcasts. I know for a fact that John Scott and Matt Perino over on WGR filling the 1 o'clock spot. I was on my way to a haircut today and I decided to listen to it. I'm not going to say it's bad. I would say that these guys don't understand what pace is. Now, I get to not understand what pace is because it's my podcast and I'm in a fucking basement. If you want to not understand pace, you can't be on public radio.
Let me ask you, are they doing the 1 to 3 slot for like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Oh, yeah. WGR is literally just spinning plates trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do with that 1 p.m. hour.
Well, that's a usual thing this time of year, and in the summer you see it on the national level. I mean, not for nothing, we did have did have a show planned around that whole Bill stuff we can get to in the coming weeks, but they're going to run different sets of people to try to get a 1 to 3 spot covered. Oh, and then Sophie for a Wendy's double stack. Burger, smash the like button, go Bills. Thank you, Sophie.
Sophie St. George, one of our best fans. God bless you, Sophie. I love that you guys show up for this nonsense every week. So in the vein of losing players, I think that we maybe sometimes overvalue some guys just because they're Buffalo guys and we watch the embedded things and because we have we're Buffalo. We have such close proximity to these guys. You could run into them literally anywhere. Hell, I own a barbecue company with one of them. So it's not impossible to think that you're going to interact with these people and you go, oh, he was a great dude. He treated my children well. Aaron Quinn, not to go back to him, but he had a tweet today about AJ Epinesa signing a deal. And he said, not for nothing, but when I met AJ Epinesa, he walked me and my kid around training camp. He went and found a marker and walked us around and got signatures. He didn't have to do it. He wanted to do it. Yes, we fall in love with these guys when they put the helmet on. Kyle Williams, you go back to that famous video of him talking to the rookie class. When they brought Kyle Williams into the building and he's telling them, if you give these people everything you have, they will give you everything that they have. And you will be heroes in this town if you wear that emblem proudly and you go out there on the field and give them everything you got. You take a look at what's been happening with Bills free agents. Now, this is a tweet again that's been talked through and it's been talked about, but I'm going to throw it up there anyway. Tom W., who goes by Ignore My Tweet on Twitter. Chris, hit him with it. Our divested talent is not well thought of around the NFL. This is not highly sought after talent. So when we're all here whinging about the idea that we might lose Ryan VanDemark, you also have to put it through this lens. Cam Lewis, that we thought was such an important part of our team, it got paid peanuts. AJ Epinesa got a 1-year, $5 million deal. We just signed him. When his extension came up, we paid him 2 years, almost $9 million a year. Look at all the guys on that defense that don't have jobs right now. Now, some people have taken this as an interpretation that Sean McDermott was incredibly important to our success. I'm not going to say that Sean McDermott didn't have value. I will never say that. Did I call for his firing a ton? Of course. Did I say that he didn't have value? Absolutely not. I think he got the best out of what he was handed in a lot of regards. And the league is basically giving you a referendum on that right now. Last year when they would go back and say, hey, do you think you have a championship roster? Right now the league is telling you they don't think these guys are part of any sort of roster. And that's a problem. That's a talent acquisition problem. And that speaks to Brandon Beane and the job that he's done evaluating. The job that he's done evaluating, who do I need? Who should I get? Who should I extend? Daquan Jones extension, Taylor Rapp extension, Ogunjobi being here in the first place, Joey Bosa being here at all. You evaluated players, evaluated markets, and came up with these guys. And the NFL is telling you right now, they're not buying those guys at all, which should make you feel bad if your job was, hey, these guys were my life's work. Am I being like, I'm looking at, oh, Jesus, big JH. Being a screener for Chopin Bulldog is basically like playing safety for the Bills. You're just there to make sure the crazy doesn't get behind you for a 70-yard touchdown. Yes, that's what radio is like right now, Ixenbaugh. Teddy Bandana, sad that Epinesa has to be on the Browns. Glad he gets the benefit of Garrett opposite him. And that may do well. Spencer German, he's been on this podcast a bunch. He works for ESPN Radio over there in Cleveland. He reached out to us the other day and said, hey, what do I need to know about Epinesa? And I said, well, he's a better run defender than you'd expect. Also, he's a worse pass rusher than you'd expect, and he gets 2 interceptions a year that defy all logic. Those are just the rules. I didn't write them. I just live by them. That's the AJ Epinesa story. So when you're sitting here thinking about the guy who did the evaluation on these players, a bunch of which got either signed or extended by Brandon Beane, it is easy to see why some fans react the way they do to the news that Jaylen Waddle was traded to the Denver Broncos. I came in here this week, like I thought we were having a good week. Monday went by, there was no bullshit. I was like, hey, good. We're not fighting about something on social media for a hot minute. And then I got on social media and realized Tuesday, everybody's going to war over the fact that at first I found out Jaylen Waddle got traded to the Browns, and I realized every Bills fan had a hot take about it. And so this has turned into punditry on punditry, fan on fan crime. And here's what I'm going to say to you. There's a quote that I was given as a child, and I still look at it this day. It's that you don't look at your neighbor's bowl unless it's to make sure that there's something in it. Now, that's supposed to promote empathy. It's supposed to promote, like, hey, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Just make sure your neighbor's okay. That's supposed to be the important thing there. But also it's supposed to be, hey, don't judge what your neighbor has versus what you have, because they're never the same thing. They're never the same conversation, and they're never worth the same to each individual party. And so I try to bring that to football, because it's so much, these moves and acquisitions are so much more nuanced than most people are willing to give it credit for. And ultimately, none of what we think matters. Like I listen to the radio. I'm driving to work, and here's Sneaky Joe DiBiase on WGR. He's literally out here trying to sell the line that someone must have also been trying to trade for DJ Moore. And that pushed up the value. And that's why we had to pay a second round pick, because he shouldn't cost that much. It's a weird leap to make. It's almost like you're trying to do the like jet fuel can't melt steel beams version of an NFL trade scenario.
A 9/11 conspiracy theory?
Just because you can't personally rationalize the fact that somebody else made a decision that doesn't make sense to you. ESPN gives the Broncos a B- for spending what they spent to acquire Waddle, and yet gives Buffalo a D for what they spent in the Moore deal. That's hilarious when you look at the actual value given up. Points wise, if you're looking at like, Chris, what are the names of those scales people refer to? Is it the, what is it? It's like, who knows? I'm not going to bog the show down with it. There are multiple scales of value when it comes to trading draft picks. We gave up less than they did to get a player who has similar productivity last year. Take that for what it is. In a must-win year where the coach is trying to save his ass and the GM knew things were probably getting pretty thin with the owner, you guys went out there and your second best wide receiver / maybe best wide receiver put up the same material yardage as DJ Moore. And yet I'm being told by fans everywhere that it's a terrible trade and that we got hosed and that everything else is crazy because they have a higher valuation on Jaylen Waddle than we as fans have on DJ Moore. Chris, I want to ask you a question. How much of Buffalo Bills fan opinion about Jaylen Waddle's effectiveness is based on the fact that we play them?
It could be. We share our Twitter account, but I didn't really see a whole lot of discourse with our fan base over the Jaylen Waddle trade. I
saw a lot of acrimony.
I honestly looked at the trade of Waddle to Denver, and I had a similar thought to everyone's favorite Bills content creator, Joe Moreno. Does that mean Marvin Mims is available? And if so, is that a fit? And what will it take to get him?
Well, and that's the kind of thinking that fans should have. Like, hey, whoa, they just added a guy who took away the job Marvin Mims was supposed to have. Does that mean that the Broncos might make him available? Chris, give me a Google. What is his salary right now? Go to Spotrac, look up Marvin Mims, because this is why I love these conversations. You don't just lose. You just pivot and go, okay, you took a guy. What does that do to your roster? Is there a guy? Maybe there's a deal to be made. His cap hit this year. Yeah, see, this is it. This is the poison pill in the Marvin Mims thing. $6 million is his cap hit right now. $6 million. We're not doing that for a Marvin Mims. But also, does Marvin Mims survive training camp? And if Jaylen Waddle's really that good, and Lil Jordan Humphrey has size, and Cortland Sutton is here, do they not entertain the idea that, hey, I'll give you a 2027 draft pick? I'll give you a future draft pick during training camp when you realize Marvin Mims has been effectively boxed out by Jaylen Waddle. Can I give you a future draft pick and let's say I make it a fourth and you retain some salary and I get him for $2 million? Well, I let Ryan VanDemark walk, so it doesn't matter. I can now fit that $2 million salary onto my books. This is why there's nuance to everything that's happening right now, and you can't be a prisoner of the moment of all the roster machinations that are going on right now in the NFL. Brandon Beane can't control everything, but what he can do is read the field and react to it. That's what you can do. You can read the field because every reaction has a, well, what's that? Every action has a reaction.
Sure.
Cause and effect.
I was going to go to
butterfly effect. Mims went from 1.3 million to 5.7. That's a bigger jump than Chris's haircut budget after his uncle gets on The Golden Bachelor. Yes.
I was going to go to content creator that we miss in the space, Tom DeLouse. Bills fans are enamored with players because they hear someone else being enamored. It's all groupthink and less intelligence.
Now, Thomas, I will say I don't disagree, but what I'll say is I think a lot of fans are smarter than you're giving them credit for there. I just think that we're emotional creatures. I'm guilty of it. Prisoner of the moment. John Fina had told me that to my face. He goes, the thing that I hate about you on social media, he goes, I look at your Twitter account and you tweet things, and then 5 minutes later, the opposite thing that you just said happens, where I'm like, well, the Bills will obviously never score another touchdown ever again. And then they score 3 plays later. And he's like, I have to laugh because you have, as a guy, now he has a unique perspective. He's an NFL left tackle for his entire career.
And he's a better human being than you.
So he looks at it from a place of, if you react like this to everything, then every setback in your life must be just devastating. And I tell him it is, but then I react to it and I fix it and I find solutions to it. I feel like a lot of fans are like me in that sense, where they see things and they have a knee-jerk reaction and they can't help but let it out. The difference is most of them aren't creating content. Most of them aren't out here trying to convince everybody they're smart. I'm sure as hell not. You know I'm dumb as hell. I have bad teeth. I hang out with this guy. Do you think that there's a lot of Pulitzer Prize winners or Nobel Peace Prize winners who are sitting in a basement talking to Chris Krueger for 5 hours a week? No, you're not doing that. What I'll say is we all have to learn a little bit that we all see value differently. And here's an analogy that I worked up this week when I was thinking about it, because if you go back and look, the usefulness of each of them is dependent on what you expect them to be. And that's every trade. It's every acquisition. It's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And it's, I acquired that guy because I have a specific plan for that guy. You don't give up assets. You throw, if it's the draft and you're going to go draft a guy on a whim because you go, I think I know what role I want him to play, you throw a dart. And if he doesn't make it, you go, well, I got another one next year. You don't give away assets and take on salary and contract obligations because you don't have a clearly identified role and idea for that guy. The reason they did it is because Joe Brady's familiar with him. They also did it because again, familiarity. Now, the Broncos are going to get a Jaylen Waddle who, do they have any familiarity with him? Do they really know what his capabilities, what his weaknesses are? Maybe not. It's not ideal, and they gave up way more than us. But I think that trying to Monday, but even more so than the trade itself and grading who did better or worse, it's almost like this idea. I have an analogy here. I was trying to fix my bathroom, so I have a half bath in my house. And there was the guy who...
You don't use it, though, because you can't fit in it.
I fucking hate you. The guy who built it did not... He put a pedestal sink in so that you could sit at the toilet and your legs won't hit anything. But if it wasn't for that, you'd be in trouble. And so that makes it very difficult to work on when you're trying to replace the drain stopper. And so I go to Home Depot... Actually, it was Lowe's. I go to Lowe's and...
Did you have on your green cashmere sweater and matching socks?
No, I did not, because I'm not your uncle. And I'm also never going to be on The Golden Bachelor. I go into Lowe's and I'm looking for a basin wrench. Okay, just a basin wrench. I know I have a job to accomplish. I have to loosen the lock nuts that are really tight up behind this pedestal sink. And then that sink nut that you got to loosen so I can take the drain apart. I have to be able to get up in there with a tool and twist it. Now there's the store brand, the Cobalt tool brand, right? And everyone goes, oh, that's only $17. You buy that, you go home, you fix your sink with it. It's 11 inches. Or there's the telescoping version that's 17 inches and it costs $29.99. And I bought the telescoping version. Now, some people would look at that and go, oh, you overpaid. You have a job to do and you need a tool and you overpaid for the tool that was going to get your job done. Do you know that when I get home, just as a lark, right? Just as a lark, I measure the distance between the nut where I would have to latch onto it and where the P-trap comes out of the wall. Do you know, Chris, it's 11.5 inches? If I had bought the cheap version, It wouldn't have solved my problem. It would have just made it worse because now I bought something. I invested real American dollars in a tool that I can't use for its stated purpose because I'm too close to the wall. And the outputs are like the drain is right here. And I'm never going to be able to turn it in order to solve my problem. Talking about the DJ Moore trade against the Jaylen Waddle trade is the exact same thing. You have basin wrenches everywhere. Some of them are 11 inches, some of them are 17, some of them are 45 inches, but they have a lot of flex in them and they're terrible. What you pay doesn't matter if it does the job. I don't care that I paid $30 because it did the job. So if I overpaid when I went to go obtain the asset, but I still accomplished what I set out to do, no one's upset. Because it worked. Just in that way, if the Buffalo Bills passing game becomes more consistent because I obtained a true 3-level threat wide receiver who also is not a complete slouch in run blocking, then it doesn't matter what I paid because it got better. The thing that I was mad about all year last year improved. It doesn't matter what I paid for it. I made it better. Now, you could say, well, and for those of you in the comments or those of you watching at home or for those of you listening and going, well, I really had hoped they would swing for the fences. What are the fences? You are still a top scoring offense in the NFL. You're just doing it differently. You're running the ball with authority, which is why you prioritize the re-signing of your offensive line. You're still have a robust tight end room. That when Kincaid is on the field, he's one of the craziest players in terms of EPA. And then you look at the wide receiver room and go, we added a legitimate threat. We finally have it. Last year, everyone's bitch was there was nobody who could go outside the hashes and be a threat. Well, we got it. Not only that, but it's a threat that they know, that they've worked with before, that they understand how to utilize him. That makes it more valuable than whatever the fuck they're going to do with Jaylen Waddle. At least in my eyes. You all don't have to see it my way. This is just my thoughts on the matter. And I feel like we're all driving ourselves crazy by insisting otherwise. By insisting that the Bills made a mistake because they didn't get a guy who, yes, some of it is recency bias. We watched him gouge us in that, remember the Sun game? Where we got killed, and he catches a pass, splits the safeties, and catches a pass to convert like a 3rd and 19. And they keep it going, and they go on to win the game. We've watched him make long touchdown passes. Also, he seems a bit soft. DJ Moore isn't that guy. He's loved in every locker room he's been a part of. DJ Moore is a glue guy. He's a, hey, look at me guy, but not in the way of a Stephon Diggs. He's a look at me guy in a way of like, hey, look at me, watch what I do, try to follow me. Try to keep up, Rook. And he challenges the guys behind him, but also encourages them. That's a Buffalo Bill. So for as much as everybody wants to try to Monday morning quarterback what Bean could have done to avoid these scenarios, the reality is he couldn't. But it doesn't matter. Because beauty's in the eye of the beholder and how you choose to use that tool. And right now, DJ Moore is the basin wrench of choice. And I'm fine with that. What about you guys? Put it in the chat. I want to know, are you fine with this after we've... does what I just said resonate with you at all?
I mean, I'll say it again. Bean's 3 for 8 in the second round in his drafting history. So giving up a late round second to get DJ Moore, who's proven, and if you saw the show that our pre-record show that we did last week with Doug, you'll see the DJ Moore charts that Drew dug up from, was it Matt Harmon? Yeah. Right, Matt Harmon. DJ Moore is fantastic across the board at all his metrics and all the different routes that he runs. Give me DJ Moore. I'd like to trade.
There it is. So, one thing, though, even if we're divided on trades and on what to do with Ryan VanDemark and all these things.
Jay Clark in the comments, Dolphins fans point to the fact that Waddle has only missed 7 career games, like he's not on the injury report every week.
Because he's a small player. And this is it. When you look at a DJ Moore and you say, hey, here's a guy who, Chris, now I feel like Chris Collinsworth. Now here's a guy.
Yes.
Holy shit, I Collinsworth myself. If we were in Japan, I would have to commit seppuku in order to restore honor to my house. Can you please Google DJ Moore's Pro Football Reference page? One of the things I love about DJ Moore is not just durability, but also the idea that he plays every game in multiple positions. Doesn't matter what team, doesn't matter what scheme. Every team that's assimilated him into the fold goes, oh, this guy, he's got to be outside. He's got to be on the field. He's got to be here, there. Scroll down. Here we go. 131 games, 124 starts, and he lost 6 of those in his first season. Every single game that he's been active for since 2021, he's a starter. That tells you that not only is he durable, but also when teams get a hold of a guy like that, they go, oh, fuck it. Yeah, you're the guy. You're the guy. Meanwhile, Jaylen Waddle, they're like, well, we have Jaylen Waddle, but we can't just have that. We need a Tyreek Hill. we have to get a Tyreek Hill. We need to keep a Tyreek Hill around. We have to continue this relationship, even though we have a Jaylen Waddle. Why? Because Waddle can't do it all. Meanwhile, there's teams that are willing to let DJ Moore try to be the guy. Now, everyone will point to the Bears and go, whoa, the Bears divested or invested first round pick after first round pick after first round pick in wide receiver because of DJ Moore. No, an old regime brought him in and the new one came in and said, well, I need this, I need that, and I need this, and let's cook. I need a Colson Loveland. I need a Roma Dunzier. Guys, you can't help what anybody else prioritizes. Stop thinking about it this way. What we know is our GM and offensive-minded head coach have a role in mind for DJ Moore. They know him. They both know him from their time and their connections with the Panthers. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want to be bringing in guys. Do you want to be the Broncos? I saw snarky Broncos fans tweeting. They were like, oh, imagine our reactions week 1 when Lil Jordan Humphrey outsnaps Jaylen Waddle just because Sean Payton thinks that that's the idea for the week.
I don't know how Pro Football Reference works, really. I just clicked on both years that DJ Moore had Joe Brady in Carolina.
Yeah, and what do we got here? 1,200 yards. Yeah, it's crazy. It's 2,350 yards. Jesus Christ. Wow. All right. Yeah, no, he was a monster when he was working under Joe Brady. Again, the tool that you don't think is as useful as the next guy, that guy goes, well, I know what to do with that. Of course you don't think it's useful. It's the basin wrench analogy. So with that, I have a strong feeling that Broncos fans are going to feel weird about the Jaylen Waddle trade simply because they're trading for an asset that they think they know on tape. The Bills traded for an asset that they know in person. Joe Brady has worked with that guy before. He's worked with him and had crazy success. So why wouldn't you give up a little bit extra to get a tool that you know can get the job done that you know needs to be done? I just feel like that nuance gets lost in today's discourse, podcasting, social media, the whole nine. Now, not to belabor the point because we're getting late in the show. Can we talk about the NFL officiating? Can we talk about this debacle that's it's just occurring right in front of our eyes? Guys, the negotiation between the NFL officiating committee and the NFL ownership is breaking down at a rapid pace. It's hilarious to me how this is going. They're very far apart. Millions of dollars apart on compensation, which is for us, it's easy enough to laugh at refs.
You do it. There's a reason that every week that we do during season. If you're new here, wait till next season. The preview episodes that we put out, Drew always makes it a point to talk about who's officiating the game and how they officiate Bills games and their record from the previous season officiating Bills games. And as the season goes on, when we get into the playoffs, it becomes an even bigger point because you're like, oh, I could see the Bills winning this wild card game because it's being officiated by X, and this is what that ref did during the season while reffing Bills games. Drew loves referees.
I've talked multiple times about it's like, guys, I know where the employee parking lot is. I spent 15 years around this institution. I've been inside the building in the media tunnels. I know how the refs move. I know where their locker room is. I've always questioned why no one just meets him in the parking lot after an egregious game and just roughs him up. But that's me being an asshole, right? Like I acknowledge that. That's me being an overreactive fan. It's hilarious to watch that the negotiations have broken down here between the owners and the NFL officiating union. And so it's easy for us to sit down here and punch down on them because nobody loves a ref. Not a one. But also what's interesting about the compensation thing is also they don't want to, they want the league to simplify the rule book and the league won't do it. Chris, would any NFL fan out there protest if we simplified the rule book? Maybe figure out what is a catch instead of calling it an interception on the field. Can I have that, please? Does anybody else out there feel that? Of like, holy shit, the refs are trying to wrestle back control from the NFL. They want to be able to say on the field definitively that was either a catch or it was an interception, and we don't want to fuck over a team. We're just out here doing a job, and also you're screaming at us in the headsets that the late game might be delayed if you don't make this call right now.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't even see the NFL officiating. Like, I make fun of them a lot. I think we all do. I think we all get mad at officials. They're not the bad guy here. The NFL is, because the owners get to pass these rules. Like, think about this. Sean McDermott used to sit on the leadership committee, the rules committee. Chris, if you get fired as a head coach, do you still get to keep your seat as a member of the rules committee? That's an interesting question. Does Sean McDermott still get to show up to the meetings where they talk to the owners about rules? I don't know. Who knows? What I'm willing to ask is it worth questioning? Like, hey, were we really wrong? Were the refs really wrong here? Or are we overcomplicating the rule book? Because that's what the refs are pushing for. Right now, NFL officiating is pushing for a simplification of the rule book so that their guys can do a better job. And the league is essentially telling them to go fuck themselves. And that's a problem. It's
talking
a problem.
Like the Des Bryant catch.
The Des Bryant catch is the exact example. Think about the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Cooks catch that I, to this day, will say was a catch because I'm a fan and I'm a prisoner of the moment, and I will never believe that my team shouldn't have gotten that call.
Like Don Beebe being out of bounds.
I firmly believe in that. That's just bad officiating. They missed the fact that Don Beebe stepped out of bounds. In the comeback, guys, Don Beebe steps out of bounds.
True or false? Put it in the comments.
True or false? Don Beebe steps out of bounds during the comeback. His touchdown shouldn't have counted. I called WGR. I used to get through because of Ryan Gates, a personal friend of mine, friend of my family's. He used to let me through on the radio so I could just harass Shope and the Bulldog about that take. I was like, guys, what about the time Don Beebe stepped out of bounds and we just all forgot about that and we let it go and we applauded it?
And that's
anytime I would call anytime they were complaining about bad officiating, ruining a Bills game, and I would go, well, what about the time that Don Beebe did it? and they would fight me.
But that's how you became
And then they
friends.
stopped calling.
That's how you became friends with Greg Trelone.
Yes. That exact thing.
Yeah, a couple trues in the comments.
So the idea is NFL officiating is really fucking hard. And the league keeps making it more difficult because they're constantly talking about initiatives and we want to do this and we want to change that. Oh, we had this idea. Oh, that sucks. Let's roll it back. And the refs are like, guys, you're not out here doing it. We are. We're the assholes that you guys stuck with the idea that we have to go out here and try to adjudicate this nonsense.
Can we go to Clark in the comments? I like the fact that the virtual measurement does nothing to eliminate human error because they still virtually measure based on where the refs spot the ball.
Yes. Oh, the virtual measurement is one of the biggest jokes in the world. As soon as you figure out it's just an electronic measurement based off spot, you go, oh, so you can still suck at your job and you're protected because it's where we spotted it. How many my favorite bad spot play is Jadeveon Clowney in college. Go Google that. Guys, for those of you who aren't, Chris, you're not familiar, right?
No.
Google it right now and watch it on a screen offset from this podcast and then tell me what you think. Jadeveon Clowney.
Not the hit.
No, yeah, it's the hit. It happened because the ball got spotted short.
Okay. Well, I've seen that play a billion times. Everybody's.
Nope. So Google Jadeveon Clowney ball short. So anyways, what I'm trying to explain to you guys, NFL officiating is about to get turned upside down on its head, but we've all watched this before. We've seen this movie, and it doesn't end well. And this is why I don't understand why the NFL ownership is getting into a pissing contest with refs over nonsense like this. Like, you think about some of the things that have gone on, and you think about the most egregious mistakes that the replacement officials
I don't think this ref looked.
make.
I have it over here on
Chris goes, all right.
There's a TV over here. You see some of it on your screen. The ref just, that looks close. First down.
But they measured it, and you see the explosion of the players. And Steve Spurrier is like, are you kidding me? And then Jadeveon Clowney shows up like the Punisher and was like, well, it's fine. You made a mistake. I'll correct it. I will correct your mistake immediately. So when you look at it, there has been egregious mistakes made by replacement officials. And this is the problem with the NFL. Like, the reason that so first of all, people ask, why do they hate the idea of full-time officials? It's because they only work 19 weeks a year. 19 weeks a year, most officiating crews are at work. But if you're a full-time employee, that means they have to give you benefits. It means they can't 1099 you. You now have to be considered a full-time employee. They have to give you benefits. They have to, like, cost accounting wise. It's a nightmare. Your fixed costs go through the roof.
Here's my question. If you're
I'm a finance guy.
If you're a full-time, I'll equate this to like my life. My wife has an excellent job. I am on her health plan. So my job, they don't give me health benefits. A lot of these referees have high-paying jobs outside of football. So would they get better benefits being in the NFL than their high-paying job that they have?
Well, all of them. Like, you look at the refs, they're all millionaires outside of football. Football is just a thing they do on the side. If you made them choose between their day-to-day and the football, they would probably pick their day-to-day and just ghost you. And so in that way, you might have...
Clark in the comments, refs are the meteorologists of sports.
Yes! This is one of my favorite takes of all time. Chris, screen cap that. It's going in the Hall of Fame. I want my guys to be more accurate if I'm the NFL. I want them to be able to better adjudicate games, keep things under control that don't rise to the level of public discourse over how bad a game ended. But at the same time, you're not paying them to do that, right? You're paying them shekels compared to what you're bringing in. And you're making them an integral part of the game, but you don't want to give them full-time training. You don't want them to have to live and breathe and eat the shield. I don't know. I think the NFL is fucked because they want to have their cake and eat it too. But the Buffalo Bills have been screwed over by officiating more times than I feel like most franchises have in forever. And it's indescribable, my anger about the idea that the refs are now they're talking about bringing back a second wave of replacement officials. Does anybody remember how bad the first one was? I feel like that's it. Like, let's go through some of the lowlights. September 16th, okay? Way back when there was replacement officials, the Panthers 35, Saints 27. Hours before kickoff, the NFL realized the replacement official who'd already worked a game prior is a giant Saints fan. They go, oh, fuck. They're literally your entire Facebook page and your entire social media presence is about how pro Saints you are. And you are somehow a line judge in the Saints game. And they go, oh shit, we gotta suspend this guy. So now they have to suspend an on-field official, which now gives you now you have an odd number of officials on the field. One side's not being watched at all times. Pass interference can't be called properly. Chris, it's a nightmare.
Do they not send one official to not ref each game in case of injury?
No, because they're cheap. They were like, well, this is your officiating crew for the day. And they go, well, what happens if one of us is like a narc? And it's like, well, then we'll deal with that as it comes. And deal with it as it comes looks like, get the guy off the field and we'll just find a different way to officiate football than it's ever been officiated. September 9th, Cardinals Seahawks, replacement ref, 3 seasons on the Seahawks payroll. And he somehow made it into the program. And then he granted them an extra timeout in that game because it was a little fuzzy and nobody knew who called the timeout. This is the problem with this. Guys, on its face, right? I don't think it's malicious. But also because people can go through social media and go, oh, well, that guy was on the staff who allowed the extra timeout to a team he used to work for. Are you crazy? This never should have happened. That's a failure by the NFL.
Roy Collins, if the refs strike, they can just get the refs from the UFL. And Tank Ninja, at least they don't have Angel Hernandez.
We actually talked about this on this podcast. We talked about Angel Hernandez, how Major League Baseball bullied him out of officiating.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, there's refs you could do that to here. What's fascinating is that it's all the things that you look at. Like, remember that famous game? The worst one. Seahawks 14, Packers 12.
The Fail Mary.
The Fail Mary. That was the crown jewel of all the replacement referee mistakes that could ever be made.
Nothing beats the two officials looking at each other and then one signaling touchdown. And then one just waving their hands like play's dead.
I don't know what to do. The play's dead. And it's like, no, it's either incomplete or it's a touchdown. It's hilarious to me that the NFL is flirting with this at the richest point of their existence. They're flirting with creating it again. Why would you want that? Other than they have larger works here. So, here's a tweet from Adam Schefter where he talks about how, hey, the NFL, they're having an impasse with the officiating committee. They're not above putting in VR to solve some of their problems. And this is where I go, Oh, okay. All right. I understand you now. I see what you're doing. You're starting a fire where there wasn't one so that you can come in and put one out with a automated solution that saves you money.
Joe Fryer, can we bully Sean Hockley out of the NFL?
Guys, I've asked the question, why has no one just showed up outside of the Bills stadium and just fought him in the parking lot? He's jacked. I'm not going to act like it's going to be easy. If I showed up to box Sean Hockley one-on-one, I have no delusions that I've been boxing for a couple years. I've got a couple years of Krav Maga experience under my belt. I have no delusions of grandeur that Sean Hockley might just clap my ears. That dude might wail on me if I ever ran into him and decided to get froggy. What I'm going to say is it's the overall idea of what are we trying to achieve here? This impasse feels forced, especially when you look at the ask from the referees. How many people work in industries, those of you listening, those of you watching, where automation is starting to be put in by people who don't understand what automation is, thinking it can solve problems, but because it reduces their fixed costs?
You know what I've seen?
It reduces overhead.
You know what I've seen before, and I think I've only seen it in Ohio at a Giant Eagle, which is a grocery store chain in the, I guess, Pennsylvania, Ohio area. So, you go to Wegmans and they have 15 to 20 items, your self-checkout. They have at Giant Eagle, they have self-checkout with the giant conveyor belt. So, you don't have to use the, you go to Wegmans, you have more than 20 items, you got to talk to somebody. Giant Eagle in Ohio, you can just overtake a whole conveyor belt and do your full cart of groceries by yourself. It's the coolest thing. That's why Giant Eagle owns Ohio.
I mean, Ohio's a cesspool, so that tracks. But I guess my point is, we're here talking about the idea that football could see another monumental shift. And in seeing a monumental shift, you're talking about it's going to disrupt the game. And the Bills are always on the receiving end. We're always on the receiving end of the shitty call. Mostly because our team leaves the opportunity for the refs to steal something from us. I don't know what this iteration of the Buffalo Bills offense. What I will tell you is I know that having a Ryan VanDemark here will not break me of this offense. I still think the offensive line's great and it's deep, and I don't need that guy around. Also, I don't need to hate the idea of DJ Moore, because if he can get back to a fraction of what he was under Joe Brady when he was with Carolina, then especially paired with, well, who did Carolina have at quarterback that year? Chris, can you look that up for me? That was one thing that I didn't research before it. Oh, look at you typing out a diatribe about Mark Chavez.
Marky Chavez.
Chavez. I want you to go tell me who the quarterback was for DJ Moore when he was there in 2020, 2021.
Oh, look at that. OC Joe Brady.
Okay. Who's
Teddy
your
Bridgewater and PJ Walker.
Your DJ Moore is going to have a legitimate quarterback, maybe the best he's ever had in his career here in Buffalo. And yet people piss on that because his stats and this and that.
And in 21, he had Cam Newton, Sam Darnold, and PJ Walker.
They love the guy. And they think in this environment he can thrive. Also, he's going to get the best quarterback he's ever had in his entire career. Let's stop complaining and start trying to see this for what it is. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. They think he's Stephon Diggs without the baggage. The reason you give a second, because there's a lot of contract there. Otherwise, if there was no contract and the Bills could have negotiated in a vacuum like they did with Stephon Diggs, then you give a first. So be thankful we didn't do that, because now we still have the opportunity to go out there, keep the draft preview series alive because, Chris, at this point, we've had a lot of success. We're doing a lot of things. We've built the roster. Now you're going to go out there, you're going to build a roster through the draft. And then afterwards, whoever's left, then you're going to negotiate with. Do you have that thing? Do you have that drop where it's like, you know exactly which one I'm thinking about?
No, I don't.
From the movie, from the car show. Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't be a bitch. Stop. Come on.
Oh, that. I might have that.
I know you do. I don't want to leave without playing it. Realistically, Brandon Beane has set this team up as well as he can. If Ryan VanDemark leaves, it's only going to open up more cap space post-draft for the Buffalo.
Come on, sweetie. Don't be a bitch. Let's talk some numbers here.
That's going to be Brandon Beane every single week post-draft. Once the draft is over, he's going to be able to go out there and freewheel with guys who didn't get picked up ahead of the draft. And I can't wait for it. And I think that a lot of you will be surprised by the way this roster looks by the time camp starts. Don't freak out. Don't be a prisoner of the moment, something I've been accused of my entire life. I love you guys. Tracy says it's going to be fuck the process. Someone goes, The Goods. Yeah, Joe Fryer, you know the movie.
Yeah.
The Goods. It's awesome. I love you guys, but for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. Thank you so much for your time, your generosity, your attention. This has been your Rockpile Report.